All right. Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the fifth episode of The Grind. What is up, my grinders? I'm supposed to start saying that now. Hi. Today we have a special guest. Mysteryhunt is here with us. If you want to say hi, Mysteryhunt.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to the grind.
Yeah, we are really excited. He is honestly one of my favorite content creators. He might. I don't want to. I don't want to sound like I'm a fanboy, but he might actually be my favorite content creator. I like how accessible all your content is. So I know you're kind of new and up and coming and growing, but you're literally like at the top of my list of content creators. So anyway, Jaren, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fairly well. Yeah, I'm excited to get to talk with Mystery Hunt tonight. It's actually quite hilarious the him carrying us in R5 right now. Like I didn't think it'd be this bad, to be honest with you, but wow.
No, I knew it's really bad. Yeah, Jaren and I ruined our R5 teams over free rune removal, and by ruined our R5 teams, we ruined our bait R5 teams to scam people into running R5 with us. Um, you know, and yeah, for any of you watching this on YouTube, you can see the true shame that is our R5 team. So basically, we're like 20% contribution, and he's doing the rest. But yeah, okay, so. You guys don't care too much about our R5 teams, I don't think. I think you wanna hear Mystery Hunt talk about his awesome experience and perspective in Summoner's War. So I'll just start us off with like some basic questions about you, Mystery Hunt. You can kind of tell us whatever you want. You can take it wherever you want. But basically, who are you? Where can people find you and your content? What do you do in the game? What do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? What are you about? Like, how long have you been playing? Give us just a little bit of a rundown, kind of whatever you want to tell us about yourself so people can get a better idea of who you are.
Okay, cool. So I started the game right around the DS HOH, I guess the first time around. Some of my friends had this thought on the table while we were playing board games, and they weren't touching it, and I was curious what was happening with their phone. So I downloaded it, and I had no idea what was going on. I summoned a premium pack, and my first summon was Sierra, and they were like, "That's really good," and I was like, "Why? Like, what makes it good?" I didn't comprehend kind of how it worked, and yeah, she kind of carried me through the early game. I guess how long ago that was, but the first DSHOH I think might date it. I think it was like the second LD swing. Like I missed the, I think.
So is that, I mean, this is like over 3 years ago, right? We're talking, right?
It was like March.
4 years?
3, 4, I don't know, something like that. But
yeah,
a long
so
time. I kind of caught on to it, and Guild Wars were already out. Some people started before Guild Wars, and Holly Heroes was a thing. Guild Wars was a thing. TOA was a thing when I started. Just prioritized PvE because that was kind of all that was out besides Guild Wars.
Sure.
And each team, my big priority, and got that online. And I feel like I had pretty good success on the polls. Like I kind of thought that Legendary Scrolls meant like a 50-50 shot, and that's since dried up.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I tried a couple different guilds, and some of them were a good fit, some of them weren't, and I finally found one that I like. So I've been with this current guild for, I would say, several years now.
Wow, that's
killing at things, which is nice.
That's really nice, definitely. I mean, I enjoy the guild I'm in, but we're not too active socially. I see them, I know who they are, they probably know who I am, but we don't interact much past that. So
it's kind of nice too. You can kind of dip in and out of it as much as you want. Like you don't feel the pressure to like carry the guild socially for it to be successful.
That's nice.
I think so. I like that in the game.
Yeah.
When RTA was released, I was intrigued, and I dug into it pretty heavily. And it's my favorite format in the game by far. I like the mind games, and actual person I think is more of a challenge. So that's my focus right now.
Do you have like a history playing other games? Like what did you play? Do you play other games still currently? Like what's your experience? Like where did Summoner's War, where does it fit in? Like did you play like Magic the Gathering? Did you play poker? Like do you know what I mean? Like is there any crossover to any of those for you?
Yeah, actually I played Magic in middle school. So that was like 3rd edition, 4th edition, something like that.
Yeah.
That for a long time. And then in terms of like competitive video gaming, I was pretty into Halo 2 in college. I went to like a couple tournaments, but didn't do very well. And then I was in a WoW raiding guild that was like top of server for a while. And so the grind was always an appeal of any game.
Yeah, definitely.
This game is all grind. I really enjoy. So that's kind of where I've been coming from there. I like min-maxing. I really like the min-maxing in this game.
Yeah. Have you ever
it feels really great.
Have you ever played EVE Online?
So you were mentioning that. I never have, but I love reading the stories on Reddit. Whenever one of those epic EVE stories comes up, I just read it in all the comments, and I think it looks like so much fun. It has a very WoW kind of a feel to it.
Yeah, it does. There was, not to get too off track, but there was one recently that hit kind of close to home for Keith more than myself, but definitely was a kind of a big deal for us. So there's a lot that happens. There's a lot of relationships and stuff in that game. It's kind of the opposite of Summoner's War in a sense, but yeah. So with the min-maxing part of it, I actually did have a question about that. Kind of, what's your focus when you're looking at, you know, your different teams and all of that? Like, what's going through your mind when you're looking through your optimizer and stuff on how to min-max most effectively?
So what I do is I have this spreadsheet that is turned into like a 7-tab monstrosity of just different things and ideas. But I've got my RTA units kind of ranked by my thoughts on their usefulness. And I'm always kind of adjusting that. And then when I optimize my units, I go down the list. I start my personal favorite and work my way down. And then I have it sorted by set. So these are my violent users. These are my swift users. And I rune them up by set.
Yeah.
And I also have a section on the roles that they play. So I have my buff removers, my defense breaks, my sustains, my control. And so I try to equally rune everything so that no matter what gets picked or banned, I'm representative of my account level, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you find you're at a point where, like, I mean, I'm sure you are actually, but maybe you could tell me, like, where you can rune everything for RTA that you want and then have no problem with like all the dungeons and the PvE and the whatever that you need to run, you know, when you're not doing RTA? Or do you find that you is there, you know what I mean? Is there ever a point where I'm going to not feel like my dungeon team is competing with my nukers or, you know, whatever? Like, are you there, or is that just how it always is?
Yeah. Okay. It's the twins really helped. I used to just rune one dungeon team and just focus on that for the month, and I would switch those runes to whichever dungeon I was focusing on. That helped for efficiency.
Yeah. And
I would just run giants for a month or 2 months or whatever. But now the twins can kind of run everything.
Yeah, they can.
Raid Beast and Rift, and I mean, they're...
Yeah, I mean, you can do Toa with twins and literally everything. So I guess the end game for that is build all the twins and then...
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize is to max your glory shop. Like, I'm always pushing that in my videos because it's so important, and you don't have a real sense of what you can do until you're on par with everyone else on those glory towers. So
yeah. I actually saw something interesting today in that thread. There was somebody like showing off a fat Lucian on Reddit, and they like posted the stats and kind of got called out actually because they were using fight sets with the cards that they posted, so it didn't fully match the set. But someone was talking about like having the towers maxed and stuff too, and how like that Lucian without max towers would do like 9.7k, and the screenshot showed like 13, and even with towers it was like, well, I say only, but it was like 11.5. So like from 9.7 to 11.5 with the crit damage and the wind attack glory shop towers maxed. So I mean 2k per card damage on just Lucian, just kind of from that point of view is like that's a lot, you know. That's an extra 6k of HP that you're eating through there. So definitely to what you're saying, like that's one thing I'm working really hard on. I probably get 130 140 successful attacks in a week, and it's tough for me to get more than that, but I'm already starting to see it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, what you're saying, and I mean, either of you can tell me, but is there, like, other than literally just like using all your wings, like, you know, are there strategies that either of you would recommend to like get more attacks in? Like, I just recently switched from having like not an actual defense, but a defense that would like keep me around, between 13 and 1400 midweek, to having like no defense, so I could get more attacks in and they could just be easier and I could crush through them because I found myself not using all my wings. But like, is there a general rule of thumb? Because it's over. I mean, I've been playing over a year and I'm nowhere near even maxing my speed tower right now. And I'm gonna need all the help I can get. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any advice? What would you guys do to max your towers faster?
Oh, I would say what your thought of getting in more attacks is the way to go. And if you need a certain finish for crystals, get it on the last day. I mean, okay. I didn't, because I took it kind of slow in terms of refreshing arena wings. I never did that, but I don't think that's a horrible strategy, because it's like you're guaranteeing yourself stats on all your runes, on all your monsters. I mean, it's the most efficient upgrade in the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was actually thinking, is like especially, I mean, the last few days I've only been able to get maybe 2 or 3 effective refreshes in before like I run into a wall. But I mean, even that, like, that's 20 to 30 more wings, 90 to whatever, 120 more glory a day, I guess. But I need to look and get like a realistic idea of how long it's going to take me, because I remember looking right at the beginning and being like, this is like 2 years worth of work or something. And
it really is.
And here I am. But I mean, on the other hand, like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you think that towers are a problem, like a barrier to, are they, do you think that they help or they hurt more, right? Like, do they hurt people who are trying to get into, RTA and start competing and start doing well quickly? Or do you think it's nice to reward players who can play longer and grind harder?
It's a weird spot for the game to be in, I think. Because when the game came out, everybody was on the same grind. Even if you were a couple months behind, you were relatively on the same grind. There's people that have been done with that grind for a couple years. Any content that comes out, they get a cut in line. Came out. Yeah. It was like the people that had their towers done were like, okay, we've got all the rankings we need, and so you could start farming your homunculus, which led to other things. I wouldn't be sad if they that grind down, because I think it inhibits new players getting into the game. There shouldn't be a 2-year barrier to entry that is also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would be a fan of them cutting that down. I think it would just make it easier for people to be competitive early. And I think it's in their best interest as well, because it's not really something that you can whale away. It kind of is a time sink,
Yeah, I mean, very much so, because
want to spend, they don't know why they're losing, and it's really the towers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely, and there's only I mean, even if you have an infinite number of crystals, there's only so many attacks you can do based on where you are, in the game and your progress, and like where you get limited to. So I guess I don't know. It is interesting. I toy around with the idea of trying to grind it out fast, but there are limits.
On one hand, if you did, I'm playing devil's advocate here, because it would be way too much money, I think, for anyone to consider. But if the crystals were limitless, you could just lose and drop your own rank, refresh again, and climb back up the ladder. So there is a pretty big wall there, though. And I definitely agree that's
a good point, though. You get one glory from losing a fight too, I guess, right? So
yeah, you do.
I wonder if anyone does that. If that's anyone done.
I don't know, but
you never know.
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, like, especially if you had a ceiling of like, I don't know, C1 or C2, you could hit get up to 1600, 1700. I don't know how many you'd have to tank for it to be worth a refresh, but I'm sure there's some math there that I'm going to be doing later tonight and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. It's just a thought, but yeah, they're super strong, more so than I honestly realized when I first started playing. I was like, just not very impressed, especially with the high cost. And also running a arena is kind of the most boring for me. I enjoy like the idea of like arena defense and crafting teams for that, even though I run like a stupid standard team. But actually running it's just like so monotonous and boring. Like I already know in my head what I'm going to hit and what I'm not going to hit. It's just finding those defenses, right?
So, I can speak to that. If I was starting out and really for any phase of the game, I think building an arena offense auto team is worth your time. Just find your bruiseriest, tankiest team and set it to auto everything.
Hmm.
Because if you're farming, like make it farming, you know? That's what I do on my alt and my main. If I lose, I lose. It doesn't matter. Then you use your wings. You're not like, oh, I need to focus. You just hit play and go.
Right. Well, and it still doesn't it doesn't take an exorbitant amount of time. And I actually have like a decent like pattern down where like I get to like run them in the morning when I get up. So I'm not like busy. Then I do them on lunch, and I catch it at like 9 when I hit my lunch break. So then I get it back to 0. And then once I get off work, I get home, run some more wings, and like, it's not like a big deal about like paying attention or like needing the focus or whatever. But at that point, you know, winning and losing would be more important to me just for max efficiency, which I guess has diminishing returns with my rune quality anyway. But that's my thought anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, shifting gears a little bit, I guess. I know you mentioned your spreadsheet, Mysteryhunt, about, you know, all your RTA monsters. So like, do you have, you said you like putting runes on your favorite monster. What is your favorite monster? What's like your top 3? And have those changed recently?
I think my favorite monster since I pulled it is Perna, and
yeah,
all that happens is they release more content that makes me love Perna more.
Yep.
Viable everywhere, like everywhere. Yeah. Like I've run Perna in raids, all the Rift Beasts, PvE, PvP, TOA, kind of. And that leader skill is just always viable in PvE content. So I think Perna is my number 1 with a bullet. Since I pulled it so early, I'd say that I don't really use her. Like, I don't feel like she's great in RTA right now. I kind of have just ruined her max damage, and I just use her against people trying to cleave me because they'll pick Rihanna or some math sometimes as their first pick, and so then I just go CR right away to try to outspeed them.
Yeah.
Josephine a couple months ago, she's really become a favorite of mine. She's sort of like an RTA like hero monster. She just, if they let her go through and they don't consider what she can do, she just ruins things for people.
And who is that? Sorry, I missed that one. That last
Josephine.
One. Oh, okay.
Water Paladin.
Yeah, I actually watched the video the other day of you pulling her. So.
Oh man, I was so happy. And then I would say Bastet, just because she's similar to Perna in that she's useful everywhere. The new Labyrinth stuff, she's really good in Labyrinth, so I feel like I use Bastet a lot since they changed her. When I pulled her, I wasn't excited, but they changed that 3rd skill, so I was really happy with that.
Yeah, I see Bastet everywhere, and I mean, as far as attack bar boosters go, she seems very strong, and like kind of whenever someone picks a Bastet against me, it's always like, you know, obviously I'm a scrub, but it's like, like I gotta let that Bastet through, but it's gonna be really annoying, you know, because I know they're gonna pick something else. But it's never fun to fight against, I think.
The 3-turn buff too. There's so few 3-turn buffers or debuffers. Whenever you find one that works, it's just like, it's so nice. Like Wusa, Velajul, Bastet, Annabelle with a 3-turn defense break. Anything that's 3 turns, it's still going to stick around. And in RTA, you get 1 violent. So I know if I say defense break you with Annabelle, it's still going to be there unless you cleanse it. So that's kind of nice.
That is, I mean, that is very nice, honestly. And I think it is really strong when there are 3-turn. And that's interesting that there are like some, you know, I mean, every debuff and buff basically has a 3-turn version of it for the most part, you know.
They're so rare, you got to like find them.
But yeah, exactly. They're kind of hidden there. Okay, so that makes sense.
What about all the ones that you mentioned were ones that you've pulled? What's your dream pull?
I think it's still Wusa. It's been Wusa for a while. I hadn't had any immunity on my account, like RTA viable immunity, until I pulled Amelia. And so all I've been doing for 7 seasons is fighting double immunity, or being able to pick it away from them. So every time I see a Wusa, I know I'm in for like issues. And so I've wanted a Wusa for a while. Would unlock a whole new section of the game that I can't reliably do. because I don't trust Triton like I would trust a Tiana. So I would like a Tiana as well.
Yeah, no, that makes
A
sense.
Feng Yang would also be sweet. I just love what that unit can do.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with like the Fang Yen. They're so cool. Yeah, but after like seeing what my Lucian can do and what other people's Lucians can do, I'm less excited, but still like they're super super strong.
Yeah.
What about
In
like
terms of RTA, the way it scales, when the HP goes down but defense is still there, the first couple turns in RTA, your odds of killing him decrease every turn, and you know it's just a clock, and you're like, oh wow, is he gonna solo me this time? Like, it's rough.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think about that all the time. Which again is we talked about this just a tiny bit before the cast, but makes me feel like theoretically Leica should be strong in RTA, right? For a similar-ish reason. I mean, not similar, like he doesn't get stronger, but like, you know, his vamp and his passive and like the less HP he has, the technically the more powerful he is, but it does not scale the same way. That being said, I see people pick Chow a lot. Does that RTA effect not affect Chow in a similar way, but in a nerf?
It affects him. It hurts him because his HP is going down. But Chow's like he's kind of like an alpha strike monster in RTA. He's looking to like 4 turns, and if he doesn't, it's probably a losing effort because that means you controlled him.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I don't think it quite affects Chow the same way.
That makes sense. So then, okay, so something you mentioned, right? You have not had much immunity traditionally on your account, and then B, you've been fighting, double immunity a lot in RTA for the last seasons. But there have been some changes. I mean, not necessarily for the. I mean, basically where this question is going is this balance patch. Now that you're getting to play with some of these units, some of the changes, stuff in Special League, do you think the meta is going to shift? Like, is immunity even stronger now that Molong can't just constantly be stripping it? Or, are there, you know what I mean? Like, have you noticed or witnessed any meta shifts or changes since the patch? And or are there any things that you think people haven't realized or caught on to yet that are going to be really strong coming up?
For me personally, it's had a big effect. I used to rely on Molong and Gani RNG as my buff removers. And so if I got Molong and Gani, even if they were shut down in other ways, I knew that they would be buff removing for me. And so that's gone, like just gone. It's not even a thing anymore. So I've had to sort of cobble together buff removal options like next week, all the different options I built, but I built like 4 different monsters that all do that job. And we're just going to play buff removal via committee.
Sure.
We'll see how it goes because having that reliability for a long time was really nice. So I'm kind of having to do what I did maybe in earlier seasons, like season 1, season 2, before I had Molong and Gani. For my account personally. But in terms of, I think, things that are hitting me especially hard in matches is Bulwark has been a problem. Because, people are and bringing him with double buffers so that you can't ban the buffer. I've seen a lot of Feng Yang, which I think is so strong, or even with a Wusa or a Beta. And crazy because if all their buffs kind of go off, he usually gets to do a max hit every other turn, something like that. And it comes with a heal. So it's like a Praha heal plus it feels like a Molong hit through a shield. And Molong hits through a shield, it gets like 50%.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time. And he's a buff remover. So I would love to pull him. I think he's the next readily accessible, so to speak, superstar.
Yeah.
He's going to be a big problem.
What are your thoughts on, because I have a Gani, and I'm again from my perspective, Gani was king for me. I loved first picking Gani, but immediately found that without his S1 strip, he's not as he didn't feel as ubiquitous. Like he didn't feel like a great choice all the time. Sometimes I'd pick Gani and it'd be like, well, he can just strip and reset things, no big deal, even though like on my team I didn't have a lot of cooldowns that needed resetting or CC that needed being refreshed or whatever. do you feel like he's, less of a top tier pick now that he can't strip for himself, or do you think that it's just, what are your what are your, I'm not going to answer the question for you. What are your thoughts on Guinea? You mentioned him a little bit, but does it hurt you as much?
So my teams, I think, are similar to your teams, where I don't have some of the strongest options to reset with Ganny. Usually I use him to keep like a Vanessa Triana Perna thing going longer. I think if you don't have that, like, Ganny Hathor is still going to be great. Ganny, strong, crowd control is, I think, going to be good.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that sort of a team, I think he's more team specific. He used to be a team independent win now kind of a pick. And now it's like, can you fit him into your team? Like, I'm looking at I've been keeping data for season 7 special league, and I've only picked Ganny 10 times compared to Perna 40 times.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Low. It's pretty low. So I'm not sure if that's a me thing or that's a Ganny thing, but I'm not as worried about people picking him as I used to be. So that's probably a problem for him.
I think it's a Ganny thing, honestly, because I'm feeling the same way. And I mean that S1 strip is huge. I mean, it is huge, and that's another thing. I guess you don't have to give away all your secrets, but I'm in a lower tier, but the same concept, right? You have to be able to strip immunity and apply armor break and nuke something down to win a match. At least that's the strategy I try. And I've been looking at different options for S1 strip. Like, I don't have an Elsharian yet, but he's something I think potentially could be really strong. I know you didn't use him much last actual RTA season. And then I looked at Chilling, right? Because I know he's always, good. I see him all over the place. I have a Chilling, so I looked at him. And then I tested out Kumar and was a little disappointed at his ability to do exactly what I wanted. The thing I ran into with Kumar is a lot of the time I'd run into either when it's immunity, I'm usually running into like a Fran or a Lusa, or there's a shield rune or whatever, and the ability for Kumar to like get in there and consistently strip so I could land an armor break didn't feel awesome. He felt like nice as the games went on longer, especially versus something like a single turn immunity, right? Like someone with like a Tiana immunity, which I don't even know if that counts. It kind of does. Later, his silence felt really good, and I need to play around with him more. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was like Ganny was my stripper. If I could get Ganny in there, he'd strip for me. He'd do the work. But I mean,
He has a lot of wasted turns too, and being able to strip on those turns was really nice.
Yeah. Well, exactly that. And so I guess my question is, am I overlooking stuff? What's go-to as far as stripping goes? I actually pulled Water Monkey King recently, and I know his nuke, or his S4, whatever you want to call it, has like a strip and a self-protection and allows him to get to another turn. I think he might be really strong for me eventually when I skill him up and get him there. But yeah, I mean, especially with I mean, I don't have a Molong, but you're double facing it. But what are some of the options you were looking at? Maybe, again, longest statement before I let you answer this question. I looked at the Water Giant, actually, because he has the Water Giant warrior, right? He has a strip and an armor break in the same skill, and I'm like, that could be cool, maybe. Yeah. But I don't know. What are you leaning on now? I know you said you had options. What are your thoughts? What are your feels?
Oh, I think Elsharian has the same issue that you were finding with Kumar, in that it strips one. He's really solid against Velajules, which I really like, because that's a massive amount of immunity you're stealing, and you don't have to apply it, you just take it. I think kind of the gold standard for single target strip is probably always going to be Chilling, as far as I can tell. Mm-hmm. I don't like building him. I've built him several times in past seasons, but that job better than anything. It's every turn, it's multiple attempts, it's multiple buffs. His damage increases as he steals them, which is awesome. One thing I'm doing this season is I'm building mine Shield Will X, and he gets an initial speed buff from that initial Shield Will he starts out on. So you can build him, mine's like 18 speed higher than he actually is, because he starts off with those buffs, which I think is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Bajir, it's funny you mentioned Bajir. I did not skill up the wind one like everybody else. I skilled up Bajir. So I've got a 75% accuracy, like 250 speed Bajir, something like that. into RTA. My only issue with him is the cool time on the third is a little long.
Yeah.
But I like what he brings in his second. The anything irresistible, unresistible.
Yeah,
is great. That irresistible bar reduce. That I haven't got him into as many matches as I would like, but I think those are good choices. What's the other one I like? Miang, super solid, multiple attempts. It's a strip combined with a bar boost for your team, which is really nice. But you have to really commit to her pretty heavily, and so I haven't really decided on that. I'm sort of halvesies on like 3 different units, hoping to find one to focus on next month.
Yeah.
I have is I don't find a good fire option that's a buff remover. So I have good water options, like lots of water options. The Water Barbarian, also good. Ethna is my wind option. I like Ethna a lot. And so I'm still kind of trying to figure that out.
Yeah, because obviously the Kumar buff is cool, right? He has that S1, but like, as far as, and maybe you disagree, but it kind of sounds like you agree. The idea of like Kumar being the dude to get in there and like strip for me so that I can then land an armor break and then kill something with my nuker, it does not feel super consistent. And I don't know what else strips that's in fire. Are there options? Or like you said, there's literally not a good fire option. Is there something you want to pull that would be good for it? I guess
Chiwu? Eligible. Chiwu maybe. I don't know that I would run a Chiwu. That's more of a, not for RTA anyway.
Yeah.
I like the speed lead. I like the buff remove, but it's like, it feels kind of cleavy to me.
Yeah. it definitely feels
cleavy
because it's AoE, but he has that, they switched it to an attack bar reduction now when he strips, right? Like he reduces the attack bar of the people he strips. Is that what happens?
I think that's right. Yeah. And that's a nice change. I could see that maybe coming into play some.
Yeah, but then again, it's like people don't tend to bring a lot of AoE strippers unless it's Tiana. I've noticed. I've toyed with the idea of Soha for me, or I think you said Triton you had, but any and all of those, it just doesn't have. Tiana, man, like, not only are they a strip, but they can also double function as like a cleanse and a bar boost and an armor break. Like,
yeah, the armor break is the part that's envious. I thought, you know what? I've actually really thought about max ruining Bella Dion, because it really does have a lot of what you want. It's a defense break and a buff remove and a heal and a bar boost. Like,
I've thought about it.
It seemed crazy to me.
I've very much thought about Bella, right? Like, not only like in multiple roles too. Like Bella on like Nemesis on like defense or something. Like a kind of like taking the role of like Ariel, but like Bella, I don't know. Bella's got an insane kit, but I guess the question is like, are there better options up there? I guess obviously there are. Like, would you? I don't know, but I feel like a Bella could go crazy, but then it's like, I guess would you rather just have a something else? Would you rather just have an Elsharian or a Chillin or whatever? Probably, but.
No, someone's going to build an awesome Bella that is functional everywhere, and it'll be the thing. It's just I don't know that it's going to be me.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that there's some nice, interesting off meta picks that could be really strong, and that's something that I think about a lot, because I think Beat D, right? I'm sure you know who Beat D is, but he claims, or people claim, that like he's the first person to start like using Tiana all over the place, and like he popularized it. I could be super off here, but it makes me wonder like how much of what is in the meta because it truly is like the best pick, or how much of it's in the meta because people watch streams and videos and tournaments and are like, I need to build that unit, it'll be good for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of how it works. You see someone doing it and you build it, and then everybody has it, and so then the counter picks become popular. And I think people that stick to, I think, are in a unique position because they sometimes form their teams around a unit that no one really has access to or knows about, and so that makes them just different enough that it's hard to deal with. Random LD units that pop up and they just wreck me because I don't know enough about how they're built or how they should be built, and then they just destroy me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Different. Having something off meta can be really strong.
I know Keith, kind of early on, could get away with like cleaving with Asima, especially with
Yeah.
Ganny resetting her skills and like just
I've
there.
gotten wrecked by that unit before.
Yeah, and there's just not enough people that know about her. And if she gets a violent off with no immunity up or something, like it can be
Yeah.
insane. Just a lot of damage output from that unit.
Yeah.
But
Just
yeah,
simply remember a fight I had where they picked it, and I was like, okay, that's fine, you can have that. And then it did its thing, and I was like, oh, I let Rika through. My bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing is like if I can ban out immunity, and I have my Asima well runed, I go through these phases where I'll rune her well for me, I'll rune her well, and then I'll use her everywhere, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna put her on like leftovers this time. But if I ever runed well on like violent, and I can make sure that they don't have immunity, like if she moves, and especially if she moves and then gets a violent, like she can cleave an entire team like by herself, sometimes, and it's fun. But then I very 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 quickly ran into the idea of basically like as you start approaching C1 and above, everyone has will runes on everything. If it's a PvP monster, it's just they have to have will runes, and that was the end of me liking her in RTA, I guess.
There is this huge band where that's the thing, but then it seems to me like when you get to the really high like G2, G3 players, they're so confident in their speed that sometimes they get rid of will runes, which is I like kind of seeing how that shifts, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean that does make sense, right? If you can feel confident in your ability to basically go first, then I suppose you don't need it. But yeah, there's so many interesting like high level things like between speed tuning and counter picks and like you know what I mean, like units that you only pick together, so they're speed tuned to work together and they combo together, and you don't need will on this or whatever. Like I know you put your Ganny on a Swift set for a while to kind of like trick people or outspeed people and reset them. I think you were doing like, were you outspeeding Wusas? Was that what was happening? You were like winning matches that way?
It was kind of my Wusa counter because there's a lot of people have Swift Wusas and they don't do will, and so you just shut that down and the match is over. So it's a gamble, but I felt like it was a good gamble. Like even if it went to turn 2, it's not like my team falls apart. Like I could still utilize back when Ganny was a buff remover as well. We still had options turn 2, whereas now it's even more of a risk, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean that's nice. I like that a lot. But I guess it is interesting. Do you? We haven't talked about Molong a lot. I know we're talking about very specific things here that only apply to certain people, but like Molong seems decidedly worse at stripping. Still very strong, right? He has a huge kit. But I mean, is he lower tier? Like, do you first pick Molong still? I only got to watch a tiny bit of your special league video, but it looked like
I generally do. I think he's still first pick worthy. His strength, I mean, his kit was, but I think his strength was the versatility he could bring to a match. Like, you're not gonna ever have a dead pick Molong. Worst case, you hit 70% of their HP, and in theory, you bring another monster that can do 30% damage in a turn. And then the armor break, if you ever get a turn that's free, no immunity, the armor break's huge.
Yeah.
And it's super reliable too. That's also big. I don't think he's first pick worthy personally. A lot of people are experimenting with not picking him first pick, so I think I'm getting him a little more than I used to. I think even with the nerf, he's still really good.
Yeah. I mean, it feels that way. It feels like that first Ganny nerf to me, where everyone still first picked Ganny after Ventilate got nerfed.
I agree with that. That sounds exactly right to me.
Yeah.
That's where Molong is at.
Well, hopefully they won't nerf him again.
To kind of shift gears, one of the things that I wanted to kind of touch on tonight, we talked about it in our Discord, so if you guys were there, you got to kind of join in on that. But as far as like Rune Quality goes, I know you have 2 accounts, so I feel like your perspective is going to be a little more valuable for sure. But one of the things that I run into, and I know is a problem for other people, is figuring out like what runes to keep, what runes to sell. And just for, my own personal experience, like with farming Necro, like I have a beginner Necro team. It's like a 2.5 minute team. It's nothing crazy. I don't have the twins yet, so I can't build one of those. And for Necro, I I find myself very picky with the runes that I keep from there. Where if it had been maybe a violent rune as opposed to being a will rune, I might have kept that violent rune and at least rolled it out before selling it. So it's just kind of interesting. Like even rage runes, like I find myself not even keeping 5-star rage runes unless they're legendary, which to me is insane because my rune quality is not exactly the greatest. But yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that and kind of how that changes as you progress?
Yeah, so on my alt account, the recent video where we crafted runes, I talked a little bit about keepers and sellers. For that account level, I think I don't have many units that are over 80% average efficiency. Like that's kind of so any rune that can roll like 17 speed, if it has the possibility of rolling 17 speed, I roll it. Because I feel like you got to give a rune a chance to hit that, and I think speed is the stat that most influences success, like at any level in the game. I'd take a less efficient rune with 20 speed over a more efficient rune with 30 HP. Put that speed to use every single turn. You know, it's clearing your debuffs, it's giving you chances to deal damage, it's giving you chances to heal. My main, where it's a little different, I have like maybe like 25 units over 90% efficiency. It's a kind of a different ball game. I'm rolling runes that can roll 20 speed. That's kind of my, you know, if it's possible to roll 20 speed, I roll it. And it happens very rarely, but I got a violent purple rune that rolled 20 speed, and I was beyond overjoyed. It's the most inefficient little
Yeah.
nothing else on it, but man, it's fast. So that's kind of what I look for. Other things I
Yeah.
look for apart from speed are just, is it packed with stats? Most 5-star runes, if they're not on their initial rolls or pretty close, I'm generally gonna pass on them on my main, because the odds of it rolling into a usable form as a 5-star rune is very low. And certain rune sets that I will possibly re-app, and if you're not one of those rune sets, up even higher. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Okay. And that's actually, that makes me feel really good because that's kind of what I've been doing myself too. You know, I've drawn this arbitrary line. I don't know if it's like efficient or not, but anything that doesn't have the potential to roll like 18 speed is kind of where I draw the line. And even then, like depending on the rune set, like I don't know, guard runes, I seem to have like an abundance of those, and I've got a lot of really fast guard runes. And I say a lot, I probably have maybe 10 or 11 runes over 20 speed, and I think 4 of those are guard runes. So
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's super weird. So I just hearing like that speed was kind of like the end all be all stat for you too, and kind of how you think about it is also pretty interesting, because I also have runes that I've kept and rolled that don't have any speed, and they feel like out of place. Like I just don't know what to do with them half the time. Like a purple swift rune I had just rolled the other day, and it rolled 30 HP at 9, and I think I grinded it into like a 36 HP rune, and I still don't know what I'm going to use it on. Like I have no clue where that rune's going to go, but I feel weird about selling it because it's probably like my highest HP roll I have on a rune.
Yeah, you can't. It's too rare. It's useful somewhere, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it should find a home somewhere, but I hate that feeling of having a rune that's good, but not good enough to like, you know, gem speed onto it. You know, you're like, I'd love this to be a good rune. It's got 35% HP and like a defense sub and accuracy, but you know.
Yeah, and
I'm looking at my swamp right now, just talking about speed runes, and I've got 140 runes that are 20 speed or above, and that's with grinds. But like,
wow.
That's what I keep. And there was a video I did fairly early on where I compared where I was at in that category to Barian, and it was like, I feel like I figured out he was like farming ahead of me in terms of speed runes. And
do you mind repeating that? Sorry, it cut off. He was what?
Sure. I feel like Barian was like years ahead of me in terms of farming speed runes. Because I had at the time maybe like 9 or 10, and he had like 60 that were base 20.
wow.
And it's just, that's how far people are ahead, because, oh, I have those units. He has those units. I have those units. But when you look at on how many more turns they're taking, it's crazy.
Yeah. So do you, changing gears a tiny bit, and I mean, it is a question, I guess, at the end of the day. But you finished G1, right, in this last season? Am I wrong about that?
RTA?
G1?
Yeah, I finished G1 every season.
Okay.
The first season, I lost my last match and I fell out of G2, and I've never gotten close since.
So do you think? I mean, what's your future like? Are you going to be in G2? Are you going to be? Do you look at G3 and do you feel like that's attainable for you or unattainable? Like, as a player who's been playing the game for almost 4 years and who loves RTA as much as you do, how does it feel up there? How does like your future feel? What are your thoughts on that?
I think I'm probably going to start finishing C3 at some point in the future. I think I'm trending more towards falling out than I am bumping up. People every season that are better equipped and better monned than there were the last seasons, what it feels like. And it's probably because the pool keeps shrinking. So maybe with the expansion of G1 this next season, I was thinking I might fall out this season. I was like, well, people like, I don't know did you guys watch YDCB's Rush stream for RTA?
I did.
And that's YDCB. I mean, he is one of the most invested players ever in the game, both financially and in like brain space. And
yeah,
you could see the struggle. He has everything. Has the runes, and it's brutal. But I kind of like that. Like if I fall to C3, that's okay. Like it'll give me something to shoot for again in G1.
Sure.
Maybe if I pull something like, I feel like Topa really hit burst up into G2, G3 when he pulled the Yonhong. So if I pull something like that, that's in every round kind of a pick, I think I might be more competitive at the higher levels.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Know.
I mean, if you think like if you pulled like a ragdoll today, that you just immediately be the king?
I think I'd be G2, no problem. I have a guildie that has Artamiel Gianna, and he was like, what is RTA? And like he was just kind of figuring it out last season, and he just shot through all the ranks. I mean, it was just cake because he has better runes than I do, and he just was getting into it, and he had the best monsters as well. It was awesome.
Man. That's wild, honestly. That whole idea of, on some level, you'd like to think that the game isn't pay to win, but then it's like you take an account and you put an L&D Nat 5 on it, one of those few up there, and it just becomes immediately next level. Kind of hurts me a little bit, especially as someone who's only been playing the game a year. And I'd love to get better at RTA. But yeah, I mean, like you said, watching YDCB not be able to hit G1, running into that struggle, it makes me wonder kind of, are there enough diminishing returns for people to catch up, or is someone like Barian always going to be, untouchable, right? Is Beat D untouchable, or those guys who are up there, are they just always up there as long as they're invested in the game, or are there opportunities for people to catch up?
I think G1 in RTA is an achievable goal. I think if you're behind on the rune grind, you have to catch up either via purchasing, or I don't know that you can out grind people who have been grinding for 3 years. But reapps, you saw people that you never knew even played the game jump to the very tip top.
Yeah,
a couple people that over purchase reapps. I don't know if you guys heard about that, where I think it might have been Tomato, I don't know, where they bought more than the 10 packs a month, and so they just so efficient for farming. I mean, it's like in a pack, something like that. So I think the very tip top is always going to be tough. But to me, I kind of like that challenge. I like that there's this artificial barrier to feel harder than it is. If there wasn't a game that had a paid component, I don't think it would hold my interest.
Yeah, I agree for sure on that, because I mean, as long as you can be content with the idea that you're never going to be the best unless you know, play for 5 years and spend, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Just
As
keeps
long
you
as you,
permanently grinding, which is what I want anyway.
yeah, exactly. Like, if you know what I mean, the idea, like, there's fucking 35 speed runes out there, you know,
Mhm.
and the idea that at any moment I could pull a rune that would roll 35 speed, you know, with
Right?
the right.
I could pull something that people would pay thousands of dollars to obtain if they
Yeah,
could.
yeah,
And I've never quad rolled a 6-star, so I'm still looking for that someday.
yeah.
I
No,
haven't either. If it makes you feel
I haven't
better.
either. Obviously, yours head carries more weight, but yeah, neither have I. But that's, I mean, that does blow my mind, you know. But then again, it's like, I mean, look at you, look at, you know, your progress, and you've never quad rolled a 6-star, but you're G1, you know, and you're having a lot of fun, and you know, you're creating, you know, really really good relatable content for people. Like, it's, I mean, it's nice. I think that the game, I mean, especially since we've been playing for, you know, a year and a half or so. Um, and I feel like the majority of updates since we started playing have been very good, you know, quality of life updates for people, you know, pushing people toward, you know, getting better, and making it easier for new players to compete and catch up and stuff. And I've really been enjoying that as a new player myself. So,
Yeah, I've seen the same
The
thing.
content has been great from the company. I've really enjoyed the accessibility and the good events and the good HOHs. Like,
yeah.
I've been really pleased with how they've been making the game more fun for both long and players that are just getting into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Verd, you know, becoming a thing, and you know, there's a million ones. Okay, but basically, it felt like every time they do like a content update, like, hey, we're updating content, or even a balance patch for the most part. And I know people have been salty about some balance patches, but like, it feels very much like they're bringing new options, new things, new ways to reduce that gap between when you start the game and everything is just like a grind with no fun, to the point where everything is a grind with fun, you know, which I think is where I'm kind of, you know, starting to be now myself.
I agree. And there's so much challenge in the early game um, that's exciting, you know, and even late game, it's like, what if I put this monster into this team? Oh, that didn't work, you know, but
Yeah,
eventually maybe one of them will be like, oh, wow,
yeah,
that worked great, you know? So
Yeah.
there's still some of that, I think.
So I actually pulled up my runes and swapped because I wanted to count them. I have, just looking at it, I have 10 runes exactly, and my fastest one isn't even on anyone after this last FRR, which I don't understand. But
okay,
yeah, it's a slot 5 despair rune with, what is it, 26 speed and 19 defense percentage.
what, do you not have anyone on despair? Do you have a single monster? You don't even have a 6-star Beretta, right? Like, what, who are you? Do you put despair runes on anyone?
Yeah, you know, I didn't look at Beretta's runes, and I meant to, and she was on my list, and I told myself, like, after like half the day, I was like, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna rune some stuff later, and it'll be good, and I didn't come back, so Beretta didn't make the cut this month.
It hurts a little bit.
I know,
The
but
25 speed despair rune broken set on my CR for a couple months, if that makes you feel better. It's
It
even good as a
does.
broken.
Yeah.
I
Sounds
actually
like quite a strong rune.
it's nice. While we're talking about rune quality, though, I do have this gem sitting at number 3 with 23 speed. It was a slot 4 will crit damage rune that triple rolled speed. So it's got 23 speed after the grind and 14% attack. Pumped to pull Ciara. Well, I guess not Ciara because she doesn't use that rune, but
I've seen crit damage CRs. They're pretty rare, but it could be a thing.
I'll make it a thing. I don't know who that's going to go.
Theo, you'll be happy forever.
If I'd built Theo, I pulled him months ago and never awakened him. He's like sitting in storage. I'm shameful.
I don't know who you are, man. Sometimes
Elemental neutral damage dealers that scale on speed. I mean, those are a dime a dozen. Might as well not use it.
Yeah. It's actually on my Chillin, who I do have 6-star. So
great.
I did put it on a speed-based nuker at least.
Can we circle back to Chilling real fast, Mysteryhunt? I know you said you built him a few times and didn't like him, and I have a really hard time figuring out how to build Chilling because I feel like I want him to both be tanky and to deal damage and be fast and have accuracy and do everything. And I can't like decide between like, do I want a nuker chilling? Do I want a not nuker chilling? And I looked at, I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's a tool called like SWAT or something, which like analyzes the rune builds on the people in World Boss and stuff. And it like kind of shows you a little thing basically of like how people, and it's like very even, like some people are, nuker builds, some are HP builds, some are, defense or whatever, but like I can't ever wrap my head around like the right way to build a chilling, I guess. But I mean, what have you tried? What are your thoughts on chilling build wise? And have you had a hard time with them?
So I think chilling has a great role early game in dragons and necro. And if you're going to go that route, I think damage is the way to go. I don't think speed is necessary. Him going last doesn't really matter because then he'll just strip buffs. So I've definitely used him on my alt account. I think I still use him on my alt account, built damage for dragons. I tried Elsharian for a while, but I think chilling's a little bit better there, being water.
Yeah.
So if you need a monster that's good in necro and dragons, which I think that's a nice little transition, people go dragons necro. I would build him damage there. I think for RTA, you just see him built quite fast and tanky. I've seen some people build like, but I don't think that he doesn't necessarily need to be that fast. I don't think the speed buff he gives like a speed bar boost does. So mine's currently built just tanky fast. He's not on violent. Ideally, he would be on violent, but he's not a mainstay. He's not like a top 8 pick. He's like a top 15 pick, and so he doesn't get the violent runes. And I'm assuming he'll work okay. I still won't pick him. I don't know what my problem is. I need to pick him more.
You mentioned you use them on your alt and dragon, so I'm struggling with the not having twins and like being able to make a speed dragons team. How are you using them, and like what's your clear time with that?
So it has twins.
Well, there we go. Never mind. Just forget it. I'll go cry myself to sleep after this. It's fine.
I have one twin. I know you do. Everybody got one.
Yeah.
You're right.
He technically has a pair of twins. He just refuses to build them.
They're the worst possible pair, I think.
He has Zenobia and Diva, which I think would be fine.
What do you have? Which ones?
Zenobia, the Wind Boom, and Diva.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would build those two personally. The way they interact, I think, is so broken regardless of element. I think the dragons, because I don't think it's viable in dragons, but I think that would be viable in necro. I think that'd be viable in giants. The wind one, you could build her a little easier. If you didn't have a line of 6 stars ready to go, I think that would be a viable choice.
Well, and I not necessarily. I guess I do. I have a bunch of like Nat 5s that I haven't 6-starred. I actually have Bulveric, who was my pool after my trans scroll. So I bought the trans pack and got Verad from that. And then Bulveric was my option with my trans scroll, and I chose Verad because I haven't cleared like Toa Hard yet. So yeah, I went with Verad there, and then ended up getting Lightning like just like a week or two later, and got Bulveric from just the mystical scroll. And my choice then was actually the Water Paladin, Josephine, right? Isn't that her?
Interesting. Yeah.
And Bulveric, and I was like at work, and I'd pulled the mystical, and like I couldn't do like any of the research I really needed, and so like I got like a break. I hadn't taken a break all day, so I decided to like take a break at that point. I was like walking around like my office, like trying to figure out, and I was like texting people and like on our Discord and like, what do I do? But I went with Bulveric, so I've got him, I've got Amelia, I've got Helena, all sitting 5-starred in my box.
Yeah, you're ready to go. That's an RTA team right there.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about it. I hate it because I look at it and I'm like, I don't deserve you. I don't have the runes for you. What am I doing? But yeah, so I still can't get a speed dragon team together. Like I've got, one
giants. I mean, I think farming giants for your first 2 years of playing the game is Like there's not that's not a poor choice. Like if you're faster than everybody else and you've got some despair sets, I mean, I still need a better despair set from Giants, and Ethna should be like 300 speed, and she's not, and that means I just need to farm more Giants.
I've definitely done that and gone that route. I farmed probably like 4 months with the speed team I had, and then it got to the point where like my rune quality was fantastic. I was like, let's run some raids for grinds, and I tried to like rune up a couple violent sets and had nothing, and that was sad. So then I was like, well, I'll farm dragons slow and get some violent runes, and it won't be that bad, but it's that bad.
Is that bad? I think
yeah.
I think the best form of progression for early players is farm Giants like into the ground, and then farm. You don't need violent for raid. So I would maybe start getting into R4, and then as soon as able, I would farm Reap Stones. Like that's what I'm doing on my ult. All I can really clear is the Fire Beast, and so I just run a million Fire Beasts for those light crystal things and those red crystals, and because those Reaps every one is a legendary rune of your choice, slot and type. I mean, it's crazy.
They're obscene. I've just started farming them myself, and I can already feel like the regret at not farming them like 6 months ago and just focusing on that. But
maybe I'll do that then. Maybe I'll focus a Rift Beast.
They're wild. I mean, if you can clear one, like if you can get S.
You get double S on the fire one, I bet. Yeah.
Exactly right. If you can get,
you've got a Varad. I mean, that's all you need.
Yeah, that is. That's the winner right there. Honestly,
maybe
the fire one's the easiest one for me too.
Maybe if my Varad was like skilled up, that would be a little more viable. But like, I actually tried it. I ran a full water team, like a Miang, Chow lead, Varad, Megan, Sig, and something else. I don't even remember.
You gotta be able to clear those little,
Yeah. Water Homunculus is the MVP for that. If you have the Water Homunculus triple AoE, like that's the only AoE you need once you have him, but you got to farm to get him in that spot. So like,
and that's what's tough. Lapis, I think I could probably build Lapis, but anyway, I didn't mean to derail that much, but just thought I would at least see if I could get some help from Mysteryhunt.
Yeah, well, we're coming to the end. We're pushing over an hour now. But I mean, I guess I don't think I have any final questions, but I'll pass it off to you, Jaren, first. If you have any final questions for Mysteryhunt, and then finally, after that, Mystery, if you have anything that's going on, anything you're excited about, any future plans, future videos, things you want people to check out, know about you, take away from this, let us know, and then we'll close it down. But Jaren, do you want to start? Do you have any final questions?
So just one, and this is just from earlier, and I asked about like your favorite like dream pool unit and whatnot. As far as like complete like usefulness aside, like is there any like L&D or anything that you would just like to have as like a trophy monster sitting in your box? Or is the game still like min-max oriented for you that like you need the usefulness to be appreciative?
Yeah, I don't have a use for a trophy monster. I don't buy like changes and stuff. Like I just want something. If I pulled an LD that wasn't meta, I would try to make it my meta just because it's unique. Something that would be functional for me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I look through every now and then just like really remind myself like what half of them do. Every time though, I have to, I stop and I can admire Nikki's like skill kit. She just looks really cool too with the just the colors that like come with the dark element. So I don't know. If I ever pull one, I'll be super happy. She's not like useless either. She's definitely useful, but
she's top tier in RTA, I would say. I've seen like G3 players putting her to work. That 3-turn attack buff, it's kind of like a defense break in terms of the damage it supplies to your team.
Yeah,
it's nice.
It's super really nice.
I really want a Nyx. I think it'd be rad to get the 3-turn provokes with
I would love a Nyx
with Jean, but I have an Asima. I think I should just focus on that. Focus on using the one that I have, I guess. But I mean, you have Yanhong on your ult, right, Mystery?
Yeah, That's pretty fun.
Oh, nice.
So
How did
I
that?
don't know that my
let's
alt will
see.
get as much play anymore because it got nerfed in the Yanhong and the
Yeah.
uh, Molong. So I'm like, ugh. So I haven't hit my alt as hard as I normally would. I've been playing my main more.
Can you feel the Yanhong nerf really badly? Like, is it huge?
It's not. It's still broken.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's,
Yeah.
I
Well.
suspect it's still broken, but I see people crying about it like, oh, she can't indefinitely turn circle now. It actually shut her whole combat. It's like, no, she's still fucking broken. She's still so strong.
One, you just put her with something that turns like even just a little Raccoony boost or something, and suddenly she's her old self again. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
where she's at.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, anything on your end? Anything about, anything you want to put out there that people can check out, or where they can find you? I mean, obviously, I'll put links to all your stuff. I know you stream on Twitch and YouTube, but final thoughts, I guess, Mystery, for being on the cast.
So I don't know. Like, I guess the main thing I would tell your viewers is like, I got into YouTube because the people I used to like on YouTube stopped doing YouTube. I liked, if you guys haven't checked these guys out, Ferocni and Caranthir. They were really awesome,
Yeah.
and they provided content that I enjoyed. And they stopped, and I was like, man, like where do I replace that with? And I was like, maybe I could do it. And so I gave it a shot. And I'd like to think I'm somewhat similar to them in that they're analytical and chill. And so I think you guys are too. That's kind of the sense I got from your earlier podcast. So I would just say,
Great.
the more people that watch the grind, the more people that will probably enjoy just a chill analytical. So I'm enjoying it. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. I'm definitely gonna be
Great.
checking out every cast.
I really appreciate it, definitely, because you were like on the we had Sean be on our first cast, but you were actually, he was the second person I reached out to. You were the first one, and I couldn't find like any way to get in touch with you, because you don't have like a business email on your YouTube, and I couldn't catch you streaming, and I like sent you a Twitch message, and like I don't think it got through, and then I like finally got you in like a YouTube comment.
Yeah,
but
you never know.
yeah, no, exactly. We figured it out, and you're here. But it was, yeah, there's a lot of content creators out there, and I'm really drawn to your content. And consciously or subconsciously, like we're kind of trying to do, things along the same lines. Talk about stuff, talk about things that are on our minds that are bothering us, that are like questions. Because I feel like an interesting part about this game. Sorry to go on a tangent off of your thing, but a really interesting part about this game is there's still a lot of like unknown things out there, and it's been out for a long time. But there's a lot of like interactions or things that aren't immediately apparent to people playing, or ways to think outside the box, and just in general, it's constantly evolving and moving, and progression, and how people do things, and that's all the kind of stuff that we're interested in, for sure. And I get a lot of value out of your videos. You always have like a spreadsheet or data, or just like even your first pick Fran video just made me decide, hey, I'm 6-starring Fran like immediately, because
Man, I know I'm going to do one
that'll
that'll someone will 6-star something they shouldn't have, and I'm like, sorry.
No, but I mean, I tell this story every cast. I'm really sorry, but it's way better than Shredded Puzzle telling me to feed my lapis.
Oh yeah, I keep hearing about that. That's unfortunate. I'm sure I've done the same thing to somebody about some units. So.
Well, I mean, worst case, they have a 6-star that chills for a while because it's not great. But I do very much value your content, and I like that perspective where you're coming from, which is basically the people you wanted to see content from stopped making it, so you're doing it yourself. And I think that's really nice. I think that, yeah, there's a lot of good content creators out there, but there's also, I was surprised that I couldn't find a Summoners War podcast, right? Like, what do people listen to on the way to work? Are people not that obsessed? Because I'm that obsessed. So,
right?
Where is it?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not going to turn Summoners War into like a business or whatever. Like, I think people like Barian and Scat before him, like, just put stuff out there because it was fun. And I think that's kind of what the community wants. Like, people are dead, and it's just fun to interact with people. And I don't know, like, this has been fun talking to someone that knows what I'm talking about versus just naming monsters to my wife, and she's like, is that a unicorn? And like, it's not, she knows it's obsessive to me, but she doesn't quite get it. So it's just nice to be able to talk Summoners War with people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. And like, me and Keith, the thought behind the podcast was like, you know, we already sit down and have conversations like this pretty much weekly anyway, at least. So it was like, why not just like put it out there for other people and, you know, see what happens. And honestly, like the feedback has been way better than I think either one of us expected. Like, you know, we thought maybe we'd have like a couple listeners the first week and maybe a few more the next week. And then like, that'd be pretty much, you know, it. And we've kind of come out of the gate a lot stronger than I anticipated. So, you know, it's very interesting, and people say it's analytical. And to me, it's just, I'm just like talking about the game. Like, I don't feel like I'm analyzing, but I know that like I also naturally will overanalyze everything. So, I think that's always interesting too, but yeah, it's fun having, you know, a community of people to like talk to the game about and, be able to chat with and stuff. And I feel your pain with like, you know, trying to talk about games like your wife. I many times have tried, and failed. She actually, side note, and I know we're like way over, but, if you have a problem, you can just DM me. It's cool. But yeah, we were sitting on the couch the other day, and out of nowhere, she was like, you know, I think it would be fun to play GTA. And I was like, what? And she's very like against violence of any kind. Like, she doesn't watch like action movies hardly, like anything like that. Just like it trips her out too much and kind of like freaks her out. So when she said that, I was like, or what? Huh? And she's like, yeah, you know, my client, she works with kids. She's like, my client was playing the other day, and I just want to like get in a car and like run people over on the sidewalk. And so we actually bought GTA and we're playing that the other day, and it's been really fun. But anyway,
it's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's been really fun. So, if you have
nice.
any other closing thoughts you want to share?
No, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And we really appreciate you coming on. Guys, there'll be links everywhere to all of the places you can find Mysteryhunt and his content. And I mean, it is really good. He has tons of awesome content out there, videos about, you know, his perspective on RTA and on his alt and rune crafting. And there's, you know, I've never seen a video and been like, wow, I hate this concept. You always have amazing ideas for your videos. So I know if I like it, I think anyone who listens to this cast will like it. And, you know, I know that you're going to keep, you know, growing and putting out awesome content. So we really do appreciate you on. You know, it's been great. And that's it. That's my final thoughts. That's all from me, guys. You'll hear from us next week. If anyone else has something to say it. And otherwise, that's the end of the cast.
No, that's it. Thanks for coming on, Mysteryhunt. See you guys next week.